We're going to talk to Erin Drain that works at Lush. She's going to talk to us about raw wine.
So that's what we haven't really talked about yet, right? Is that there's alcohol in wine.
Yeah.
It's raw, but then there's this other wild card thrown in, which is alcohol. And a lot of people, I mean, historically, alcohol has served many purposes. Still, you know, wine is not a distilled product. So the part of it that is alcohol doesn't really at all outweigh the part of it that's fruit. It shouldn't anyway. The maximum you're looking at, and this is with like huge, big California, like crazy overripe wines, is like 16%, which is pretty low in terms of like the world of adult beverages. Health-wise, like, I'm sure that if your body is working overtime trying to metabolize alcohol, you're probably not getting all the nutritional benefits of all the enzymes and all the other great things that you're getting from eating food that hasn't been processed. But to get to that point, you'd really have to probably be pretty blitzed. You'd have to be drinking a lot of alcohol, I think, to cause your body to not be able to focus on anything else, which most people aren't doing. I mean, if you're having a glass of wine while you're eating, I don't see how that could be harmful.
You know, some of our recipes have been calling for wine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So in what sense?
Like a dressing.
Okay.
Or a soup.
Okay.
So
I bet that'd be great. Absolutely. I mean, I cook with wine almost every day. Usually, whatever I'm drinking will kind of make its way into whatever I'm preparing.
Yeah.
You know.
But think about using wine in a recipe that you're not cooking,
Right.
that you're not applying any heat to.
Right.
So,
Well, I will say, I mean, the alcohol doesn't get cooked off when you're cooking, which a lot of people don't realize. It really does not. Maybe a small portion, or if you're cooking for an extremely long period of time, it will, but it's in there still. So, traditionally, when a lot of people use wine to cook, it's for deglazing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's for kind of stripping away what's kind of been sticking at the bottom of the pan, partially using the fact that it's naturally acidic, and then it kind of like lifts it all together, and then whatever fat's still left you can kind of emulsify it all together and make sauce. I would imagine you can do something similar with food that hasn't had heat applied to it. For instance, if you're working with like maybe something like really starchy, or something like just sticky, that will help kind of break it down. I mean, any liquid probably at all would help, but if you're working with like some sweet potato or some nuts, like anything that's gonna kind of form like a butter that will have like fat, so like cashews, something like that, like I imagine that will just help. You know, it's always nice to add a little liquid to smooth things out. Mm-hmm. So definitely if you're making a soup and you're gonna be like pureeing it or what have you, that's a great place to have liquid.
Oh, now you just gave me an idea.
Okay. But yeah, I was kind of wondering about that too, like what role, when you're preparing the food itself, can wine play? Certainly, I mean, wherever you may use like vinegar, a really acidic white would be great. If you want, I mean, the reason why a lot of people will use stock and things like that is to add an extra flavor category. So like an umami kind of thing. And you can kind of get that with reds. So the same way like with tomatoes you have that acidity, but there's also this something else there that kind of hits you in that part of the tongue that's not sweetness, it's not sourness, it's not salt, it's kind of like an umami. I imagine that like a really good red will provide a similar thing. So if you wanted to make like a spaghetti sauce that's not cooked and you have tomatoes, I bet adding some red wine would really kind of make it pop, but also bring a few more levels to that, kind of deepen those flavors.